Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Boston. I'm a concert photographer based in Los Angeles, California, and I do videos about concert photography and the music industry and just kind of general photography stuff. So today's video, we're going to be talking about camera settings when it comes to concert photography and how to get the perfect settings for you and the venue that you're shooting at. So let's just jump right into it. Now, I firstly want to say that you can have very different settings from someone else and get similar shots. Like, I don't want to hate on anyone that gets super technical about all this stuff, and I am not really a technical, camera nerd kind of person, but I do what is comfortable for me, and you should do what's comfortable for you. But that being said, you can use kind of whatever settings work for you. There's a lot of stuff that you do in post-production and editing your images that you can get a similar or even better turnout than someone who has their image properly exposed or maybe just has what they think are better settings. So I don't want to say that there's like a one-size-fits-all perfect setting for everything. I just want to take you guys through what I do for my settings because it helps me a lot when it comes to editing, and it helps me a lot when I get to the actual venue. I take one photo at the venue, change my settings a little bit after that, and I'm good to go. I'm not fussing through the whole set, just changing settings. And I've started noticing that a lot of people struggle at the very beginning of a set, changing back and forth on their settings to make sure that they're good to go. And this is just something that works for me, so I wanted to share my advice with you guys. So the first thing that I want to talk about is actually white balance. Now, I always have my white balance on a designated Kelvin temperature. Now, I never use auto white balance. Now, this was really important for me to learn and start doing as a concert photographer because I can take one photo and then batch edit everything else, and you can see the vibe and the feel of the show by what lights they actually use, and I'm editing true to color. So this just helped me speed up my editing because when you have auto white balance, it's picking and choosing every time for you. So it was really hard for me to batch edit. So within my camera, the settings itself, you can see that it is at 5560 Kelvin, and that is where it stays. I never change that. That is always a permanent setting on my camera. When it comes to my f-stop, I almost always shoot wide open because that's just a style that I like. So even if I'm at a concert that is like an outdoor festival, I'll normally change all of my other settings to be able to adapt to that wide aperture. So I almost always just look at whatever lens that I'm using. Right now I have a 1.8 on this camera, so my f-stop would be 1.8. Now when it comes to shutter speed, I always start with my shutter speed at 250. Now, if I am shooting a outdoor stage, something during daylight, I will normally set it to like 500 or something else high to start. But when I'm shooting club shows, I normally start at 250, and that's because 250 is like kind of a comfort zone for me, where I know that I'm freezing the people in the photograph. Like, unless it's really a band that runs around significantly, I just started at 250. It freezes everything for the most part, but for like really fast things, maybe sometimes drumsticks, hand motions at the very tips, like those will have a little bit of a blur on it, and my clients have seemed to like that. So I have no problem with a little bit of motion blur. My clients don't mind motion blur, and it helps me in the dark club settings. So I normally start at 250, and if it's a little too dark, I can change it, or if it's a little too bright, I can change it either way. So that's where I start with that. So the last thing on our list is this bottom number for me, which is our ISO, and that I have set almost all the time at 2500. I don't know why. Maybe it's like an OCD thing that if I have my shutter speed at 250, 2500 just seems really nice. But I normally have my ISO set around 2500 because it helps me in those club settings. Like I said, I shoot a lot of dark lit clubs and venues that don't have that great of lighting, so that's how I start. And I change it up or down whatever way. And the last thing that I wanted to say is that when I am changing and adjusting my settings from their original place, when I take my first picture, is I bring up the picture and go to my playback button, and I go to this RGB highlights. So this is a great tool for me because this shows what is a true white when you have taken the photo. Now the cool thing about this is that it flashes all of the pure whites that are in your image. If you can see on my image, the only thing that's flashing is this little white dot right in the middle. So that means that that one white dot, which was actually a light behind the artist, that was the only thing that was showing up as pure white, completely blown out white. Now, the reason that I look at this is because those whites you can't get back. When I'm editing in RAW files, I can take almost completely black, pure darkness sections of the image and brighten them up and see detail in them. But when it comes to the blown out whites, your camera just doesn't like register that. So there's nothing that you can really get back from that. Now, I have definitely rescued a lot of blown out white images. I'm not saying that you can't just in general by any means. What I'm saying is that I use this as a point of reference, that if there are too many things blown out, that I change my settings from there. That's really the only rule of thumb that I use when I'm changing my settings. Because if there's something on the musician's face that their cheeks are blown out, that'll look really weird when I edit it. Even if I turn it to black and white, there'll be like a strip of brightness right on their cheek. And it's just this harshness in the image that I've never been able to figure out how to edit. So if you can edit it out, I don't know why you're watching my video, but thank you. But I have learned that as a great rule of thumb to just make sure that the fewest, minimalist amount of things are blown out in your images. So that is my rule of thumb. And then to recap really quickly, I have a shutter speed of 250, ISO of 2500. My f-stop is the lowest that it can be because I like to shoot wide open. And my white balance is set at 5560, which is actually kind of like a very natural tone color. And those are my settings. That is what I shoot with. That's what I start out with. Most of the time when you take a picture, your first picture will turn out like one of these, where it looks really dark and really weird, but then you make edits off of it. Now, for those pictures that I just showed you, I only had to make one quick edit, and that was just brightening up the ISO, and then I shot the rest of the show in those same settings. So most of the time when you have settings like these, you kind of learn to adapt and just really run with it. And these have helped me just set my camera and be ready to go and take that first photo and then just brighten it up or make it less bright as needed. So I hope that helped. Those are my camera settings. If you are partial to any specific camera settings for concerts or portraits, I'd love to hear it, because I always thought that I was very strange for having a very standard set of settings on my camera at all times. But those are my settings. I hope that that helped you and maybe gave you a good starting point for your next show. And like always, thank you so much for watching. I put out new videos every Thursday on my channel, so I would love to have you guys back, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.